Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores a goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite soccer podcast. We've got the January transfer window coming to a close now. Did your favorite team pick up the player you wanted? Probably not, because there was not much action. There was a lot of loan moves going on. But there was not that big signing that a lot of us are always hoping for during any transfer window. Obviously, we always got more cup matches. We got a lot of league talk to get into in today's show. But let's just, discuss, what we're going to be talking about throughout the different segments. First segment, we're going to be talking about that, of course, January transfer window. But I'm going to be primarily talking about the Premier League, going over, each of the signings, or not each of the signings, but just how each team did during this transfer window. I'm going to be going off a website, an article from Eurosport.com. They put a grade on them. I'll tell you what their grade was for them as well, but I'll just be going off those, off what they put on there, so that I can kind of follow each of the signings, who came in, who came out. The second part of the show, we're going to be talking about the DFB Pokal. Those games are going on as I'm speaking right now. So I'm going to be recapping some of the games that are finishing up, and which matches we have coming up. Especially since the field is wide open now. Bayern Munich getting eliminated the round before, so obviously we got a lot to talk about there. Third part of the show, I'm going to be discussing the top 5 leagues. Just it's kind of the same thing I do nearly every show, talking about each of the games that have happened since the last time I spoke with you guys. And talking about the standings, like what's going on at the top of the table. And lastly, we're going to be talking about the top 10 current England players right now. We're nearing pretty much the end of that list. We're now at the 4th best country in the world in England. And there's certainly going to be a lot to talk about there, as we have some of the best players in the world on that list. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Starting with the Premier League January transfer window. How did each team do? And we're going to do it in alphabetical order. So of course we're starting with Arsenal, and as we know, they're kind of going through a bit of a rebuilding phase, going with a lot of young players, Bukayo Saka, obviously I was assuming Maitland-Niles and maybe guys like Joe Willock would get more time, but apparently those guys sent out on loan, probably for the best, because so they can get a lot more playing time, which they were not getting at the moment. But there was a big-time move that was, also, I'm sure I've already talked about it on the show, but Mesut Ozil also being released or gone to Fenerbahce, the Turkish club, for an undisclosed amount at the moment. But they also got rid of a lot of defenders, Sead Kolasinac, Mustafi, who was obviously a scapegoat for a lot of fans, Socrates, a lot of players that were sent out, either contract terminated or on loan. Technically, Kolasinac and Mustafi both heading to Schalke to try to help out that German team that are at the bottom of the table. But yeah, Mesut Ozil no longer there. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I would love to know how Arsenal fans feel about Mesut Ozil, because it wasn't, maybe it was his fault. Maybe it was just managers not really liking his attitude, or maybe he was just a scapegoat for everything that was going wrong there. But for all the years of excellence that he had shown, to now be, not playing for the Arsenal first team in like almost 2 years, and now he's leaving to, for a Turkish team. Obviously, there was a lot of money on him, so they had to get that off the books. But still, it's just a weird ending to that, to that era of Arsenal football. But there is some brightness coming now. Martin Odegaard, kind of seen as the future of football for so long, but obviously the way he's been playing of late kind of feels like that's a bit of an overhype. But he's still got a lot of potential. A great player, as we saw from his loan stint at Real Sociedad. He's got the talent, and he's only 22 years old, so he still has a lot to give. And it'll be interesting to see how Mikel Arteta kind of puts him into the lineup and integrates him into the fold at Arsenal. But for what I'm seeing here, they gave the rating of this transfer window an A here on Eurosport.com. I can kind of agree because you let go of some of the guys that were kind of not doing anything for you. You bring in a really good young piece. You also bring in Matt Ryan, the goalkeeper from Brighton. So there are some solid pieces there that are brought in, and then obviously some pieces that weren't doing anything that were let go. And then of course you get some of those young players loan moves so they get more playing time. So overall, some solid moves that can probably help Arsenal in the long-term future. Next, we have Aston Villa, who, things have been going so well for Aston Villa this season. Obviously, Jack Grealish playing so well, and then, he has guys like Ollie Watkins, and, it's just been a great season overall for Aston Villa, and they added to that, really strong, core group with Morgan Sanson from Marseille, who I love his game. I mean, the way he controls the midfield and just how he's a potential France call-up, so he's got a lot of potential there. And for 14 million, I mean, he was kind of on the way out already. But for 14 million, that's not really that bad, considering the climate with all this pandemic and, the hits that it's had on, all these teams financially. That's really not a bad move. They gave this Aston Villa transfer market a B because there wasn't really much done aside from that. A couple guys sent out on loan, nothing too, notable, but still, also being able to hold on to Jack Grealish, who's obviously been in those transfer rumors for, forever now, is for another 6 months. Not sure if he's going to be re-signing there because he's been playing so well. He can obviously make a move to a bigger team. So that's yet to be seen, but for now, it's looking good for Aston Villa, adding an extra piece, for either depth purposes or, maybe he can get integrated into that starting lineup. So that's yet to be seen, but a solid start for Aston Villa and a really good January transfer window. For Brighton, probably one of the biggest moves in the Premier League that we've seen with Moises Caicedo moving from Independiente to Brighton. I mean, and it's crazy because the list of clubs that were linked to him are big, like Manchester United, Everton, Chelsea, West Ham, and even other teams like AC Milan, RB Leipzig, Club Brugge. So a lot of big time clubs were trying to get his services, and for good reason. I mean, Moises Caicedo is an amazing talent. At 19 years old, the poise that he shows and the instincts that he has on defense and in the attack are incredible. And the way Brighton were able to pull this move off for just 4.5 million euros is absolutely incredible. They did make a few loan moves out. They didn't bring anybody in, but they got rid of Matt Ryan. Bernardo sent to RB Salzburg. But for the most part, it was this Moises Caicedo move that's really going to pay dividends for Brighton. Obviously, now can he live up to that hype? That's going to be the main question now at 19 years old, and he's going to be playing a lot of Premier League football now. So it's a different level from South American football. Maybe not. It's probably as aggressive because that South American football is very aggressive, but at the same time, it's a different level. So can Moises Caicedo still play at that level? That's yet to be seen, but it'll be interesting to see how he integrates with this Brighton club. But still, I'm really excited about that move. Next, we got Burnley, which had close to nothing being done during this transfer window, and it's being shown here that it kind of sucks for Sam Dyke, who worked hard throughout this season. I mean, have not been able to do much. They can't really get out of that mid to bottom table, that they've been in for so long, and the fact that his management and ownership groups don't really help him out with any kind of resources. It just sucks. It's a bad situation to be in, and that's why on this website they gave him a D grade. So I gotta agree there, because if Burnley have not shown much of anything this season, they've been kind of like one of those middle of the pack teams and even like inconsistent teams this season. So to add something to this team would have been beneficial, but they did absolutely nothing. Chelsea didn't bring anybody in, sent a few guys on loan like they usually do. Danny Drinkwater, Fikayo Tomori. I think that's a great move. But he did move to AC Milan, so I'm not really sure what's happening there. Maybe they see him as a big time piece, and they have an option to buy on that move. But no one was brought in, and for good reason. After what they did in the summer transfer window, there was no reason to bring in even more talent for Thomas Tuchel to have to bundle around, because there's so much talent on this team that he can move around that they don't need to look for something else. So regardless, Chelsea were pretty much going to be standing pat for this entire transfer window. I was not expecting any moves. And that's exactly what they did. No one brought in. That's why they got a C grade. It's just, they are who they are. And Thomas Tuchel needs to now try to, bring all this talent together and make them mesh well. Crystal Palace now. Not much is known here about Crystal Palace's only January transfer arrival in Jean-Philippe Matetas. But it is still a welcome addition, as, you add an extra attacker with the likes of Jordan Ayew, and Christian Benteke kind of going through like really bad scoring droughts and getting away with it, because there's really no other options on that team. Now you have that extra option. He did play for Mainz, one of the worst teams or one of the worst clubs in the Bundesliga, so it'll be interesting how he kind of adjusts to that Premier League level of play. But still, to have that extra piece is always good. But however, there is a piece leaving that's got to leave those Palace fans wondering about Max Meyer. He came in with amazing, with a great reputation and a lot of hype, but it never meshed well. And he's now leaving on a free transfer to Cologne in Serie A. So that certainly hurts Crystal Palace. But to bring in that Jean-Philippe Mateta to that attacking side that obviously needs a jolt is a solid piece, but still it kind of balances out. That's why they gave him a C grade. For Everton, they made a kind of a weird signing here that kind of took a lot of people by surprise with the arrival of Josh King, the 29-year-old from Bournemouth. But he didn't really do. He's a solid piece. A lot of teams were looking at him, specifically like lower table teams in the Premier League. But Everton swooped in, picked him up, and he's going to be a solid player. He's kind of like one of those depth pieces that you add kind of like for, to kind of back up Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because obviously he's not going to start over him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's one of the best strikers in the Premier League this season. But it's certainly a very solid addition, especially with him being linked to teams or at least last year he was, so like Manchester United. So this was obviously a very smart decision, and especially since they were able to get him on loan during this pandemic laden times. It's a smart move, a smart financial move that they don't really have to worry about losing any money here, and especially with a lot of the scoring primarily coming from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or DCL as they say, to add an extra forward that certainly has shown the ability to score in the Premier League will definitely not hurt. That's why they get a B grade here. And you actually, I can look at the stats here. He's 29 years old, 5'11", in 161 Premier League appearances. He's got 48 Premier League goals. He's even got 17 international goals, so he can score on all levels, and he'd be a very solid addition to this Everton team. For Fulham, they got a late deadline day arrival with Josh Maha from Bordeaux. The summer window saw Fulham's transfer committee working in overdrive right up to that last minute, and then of course eventually bringing in Josh Maha. Not really sure what about this signing, but I mean overall it's a significant upgrade over Abubakar Kamara, who has left on loan. Kind of was disappointing throughout his season here in Fulham, which have obviously been suffering through a very tough year. But Josh Maha is going to add some a lot of excitement to that forward line and pretty much add to what's already been a pretty dynamic attack. It's just they got to put it all together. So that's why they get a B grade here. Leeds United did close to nothing in this transfer window. Not sure if that was a smart move, especially with Leeds United actually playing very well this season. A lot of people, newly promoted side, they're a mid-table club, which you don't really expect when they have to adjust to that higher level of play in the Premier League top flight. But Leeds United have played very well, but with bringing in no extra talent, I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to last throughout the rest of the season. Even here on the website, they're saying that they could easily suffer from some burnout towards that end of the season with their high octane play of style of play, and I absolutely agree with that. It just kind of feels what's the word I'm trying to think of? I guess I could just say not smart. It's to just rely on the players you have right now and not try to bring in extra talent to kind of add to what they've already built on this season. But so that's why they end up with a C grade here. Leicester City, lack of moves. Honestly, just comes down to that they have already the talent to compete here in the Premier League. And they've obviously, like I've been saying so many times on this show, they've dealt with so many injuries this season. And the coaching abilities of Brendan Rodgers has proven itself time and time again. This season is no different. And the only thing that I would say is that they let go of Damari Gray. He went off to Bayer Leverkusen, which is probably a great move for him because now he can, try to help them, make a big-time move in the Bundesliga, especially with them suffering one of their worst stretches of the season as of late. And with him not really getting that much opportunity here at Leicester City, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of feels like a question mark move there, but it's fine that they didn't bring anyone in. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, but they're starting to get all those players back, and this team has the talent to deal or to compete in the Premier League. So I have no problem with them not making any big-time signings. I can't really even think about any big-time weakness that they have. Maybe getting an extra striker to back up Jamie Vardy, who's obviously getting up there in age, so they can obviously use that depth in that position. So that's why they get a C in this transfer window. Liverpool. For Liverpool, it was all defense. I've been saying it so many times throughout my many episodes that their defense is absolute garbage. It's just, I'm just putting it as nice as I possibly can. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with Virgil van Dijk not being there. But they can't control that. Injuries happen. And with you now seeing that with a Virgil van Dijk injury, you have little to no defense. You having to rely on guys like Fabinho and Jordan Henderson playing on your back line. That clearly shows a lack of depth. And on top of that, Joel Matip has been confirmed to be out for the rest of the season. They needed to add defense. So they added a guy like Ben Davies from Preston, who has not played a single game in the Premier League. He spent all of his career on the lower divisions in the English leagues, and so honestly, that was kind of a questionable move to me. They did bring in Ozan Kabak from Schalke on loan, who has been nicknamed the Wall of Turkey. And he has a lot of potential. So obviously, that's more, the more, I guess, short-term, addition, or I guess what they're, kind of short-term bandage for this team, at least while Virgil van Dijk comes out. But honestly, I can easily see Ozan Kabak be their, pairing with Virgil van Dijk when he comes back. They use Fabinho back in that center defensive midfielding role. But, I'm not really sure which way they're going to go. Obviously, I'm not in the mind of Jurgen Klopp. But still, they did what they needed to do with getting all these defensive players. And they signed two of them. So they did what they needed to do. But also allowing Takumi Minamino to get time at Southampton. That was huge. it's just, give him time to learn, give him time to play, more games and get that experience. And he's certainly got the ability. I mean, he's shown it in cup matches, and he's even done it in some Premier League games, but he just wasn't getting enough time. And he's got the potential. So they should, giving him a loan move was very solid. And then shoring up the defense, that back line, giving him some depth was solid. That's why they got an A grade here. Manchester City were linked, as they always are, to a lot of big names, specifically Diego Costa, Sergio Ramos. Though that obviously did not happen. And really the only thing I was thinking that they should do was getting some more depth in that striker position, because, of course, Sergio Aguero and those injuries are starting to really linger and be a big-time problem. And they're having to go with Gabriel Jesus almost every game because Sergio Aguero just can't get right. So they needed to get maybe, I'm just talking about like minor things, because in the end, this midfield and this defense are probably one of the best, if not the best, in the Premier League, and they can survive and win this title without a premier striker at that position or any more depth at that position, because Gabriel Jesus is solid. Obviously, Raheem Sterling helps out on that attack, and of course, Kevin De Bruyne is the guy, but overall, Manchester City didn't really have to make a big-time move, and that's kind of where what they did. That's why they have a C grade here. Manchester United made another one of those, young signing moves. It's happened already it's already been official for a while now, but Amad Diallo from Atalanta makes the move to Manchester United for 20 million euros. I like the move because, I just saw some highlights of him, and man, this kid can do some work. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Messi, with the way he's able to dodge opponents and kind of like manipulate the ball to get through players, multiple players at that. So, he's an exciting talent. He's going to bring a lot of excitement to Manchester United. At the moment, he's only playing from the under-23s, but he already had an amazing debut for them. And aside from that move, the only other thing that Manchester United needed to do was just offload a lot of players that weren't really doing much for them. Specifically, Jesse Lingard. He got a loan move to West Ham. That was a long time coming. Timothy Fosu-Mensah moving to Bayer Leverkusen for an undisclosed amount, so he's gone for good. And aside from that, and Tahith Chong went to Club Brugge on loan. But other than that, that was pretty much it. But still, bringing in Amad Diallo, that is a huge move for them, and hopefully he can live up to the height, which, so far he has, and he just needs to keep developing. At only 19 years old, or I think he's like 18, he's got a lot more time to develop and continue to improve. So huge move for them. But still, it's just, it was only that, and they've been kind of playing a little inconsistency, but they got a C grade. I kind of don't agree with that. I feel like a B grade would be good for them. But yeah, they got a C there. Newcastle, apparently finally getting some good things happening to them. Joe Willock coming from Arsenal on loan. He's got incredible talent, and Newcastle have been going through a very tough season. So bringing in a guy like Joe Willock's, talent and just quality is going to be huge for this team. And I think it's a very solid move. They didn't really do much other than that. DeAndre Yedlin left on loan to Galatasaray, but yeah, it's a B grade for me there. Very solid signing. Sheffield United. The money has not been there for them, and they failed to get any signings. For the worst team in the Premier League, I don't know why that is. They should have brought someone in, but they did not, and that's going to obviously hurt them. I feel this kind of like seals their fate in getting relegated, and that's why they get a D grade here. Southampton, they needed to bring in some attacking power, and they did that with Takumi Minamino, because it kind of feels like only Danny Ings has been able to score for Southampton. They haven't had that same fluid attack that they had last year, and Minamino is going to add a lot to that attack, and he's going to get the games. They need his attacking presence on this team, so it's a big move for them. That's why they get a B. Tottenham didn't make any moves, and for good reason. The only thing that I was kind of weird, not sure about is why didn't they just move Dele Alli? They're not even using him. They need to somehow bring him in, and they need to do something with him. Don't just have him waste his time on the bench. And he's not even on the bench. He doesn't even make the bench sometimes. He only plays some cup matches. It's ridiculous. But Tottenham brought in a lot of guys during the summer transfer window. They needed to keep integrating those players and make it a good signing. Guys like Gareth Bale, who hasn't done anything. Sergio Reguilon has been great, but still, Dele Alli not going anywhere. Not really sure what they're trying to do with him there. He should have moved to PSG with Pochettino, but he didn't, and I don't know why. So that's why they get a C here. West Brom, they made a lot of moves. I mean, they brought in Maitland-Niles from Arsenal. They got Robert Snodgrass from West Ham. Mbaye Diagne from Galatasaray. So they made a lot of moves. Brought a lot of much-needed quality to this club that has been, playing honestly poor throughout this entire season. Robert Snodgrass can easily play at the highest level still, and has already been in their starting 11. I love the Maitland-Niles move, and I also like the Mbaye Diagne move. He's already had an impressive debut for them, and he's gonna add a lot to them. To their club as well. That's why this team gets an A grade. So they got one of the biggest grades there. Let's see, for West Ham, the much maligned and unfairly ridiculed David Moyes can do no wrong at the moment. All right, they did bring in Jesse Lingard, who if anybody needed a change of scenery, it was Jesse Lingard. They did let go of Sebastian Haller, selling him to Ajax for $20 million. And I mean, during this time, these financial crises, for them to be able to get $20 million for Sebastian Haller, who did not play well in his time here at West Ham, was very solid. It kind of leveled up their net spending at minus 1.5 million euros. So that's why they get an A grade, while also bringing in Said Benrahma from Brentford for $20 million. It just overall is a very, very solid work. And for the Wolves, lastly, they needed a striker with Raul Jimenez injured, and they got one. Bringing in Willian Jose from Real Sociedad on loan is just huge, especially with Fabio Silva struggling, not being able to get anything going for him. They needed that option up front. They got it. They would have loved to get an extra one, but still, Willian Jose, a guy who has scored in double digits in the last 3 years in La Liga, is a huge signing for them. And it's certainly going to help them for the rest of the season. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the DFB Pokal Cup right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over the Premier League January transfer window, talked about each team, the signings they got for this for the rest of the season, and which ones are the best, which ones were the worst. But now we're going to be talking about the DFB Pokal, but I'm also going to be adding Coppa Italia and the Copa del Rey, as we had games from each of those cup competitions going on this week. And there were some crazy games going on. We had some upsets. We had some late winners. So I can't wait to get into all that. Let's start off with the DFB Pokal, where we had the team that defeated Bayern in January. Well, we're still in January. Well, no, we're in February. But whatever. On January 13th, in the fourth round, or what was it, the second round, Holstein Kiel defeated Bayern in penalties. It was ridiculous. I actually never even talked about this game for some reason, but it's one of the biggest upsets that we've ever seen. Holstein Kiel are like one of the third division teams in the Bundesliga or of the German leagues, and they were able to beat Bayern. It was unbelievable scenes, but there was always the talk: was that just a fluke, or can they come back and move on to the next round? Can they make it to the quarterfinals? And they did just that. They defeated Darmstadt once again in penalties. So obviously this is and really they dominated the early parts of this game. They scored a goal in the 58th minute to take the lead, but Darmstadt were able to answer back in the 86th to tie it up, send it into extras. There were no scores in extra times. Both teams had chances, and this was a back and forth affair. I mean, the possession was practically even. Darmstadt had a slim 51% advantage. 21 shots for Darmstadt for 17 for Holstein. Or maybe I'm saying it wrong. Maybe it's Holstein, but Holstein just had a more efficient attack, and they honestly deserved to win this game. But in the end, it still went to penalties, and at that point, it could really be anyone's game. But it went to 7 penalties. Well, in total, it was 13. 7 made for Holstein, 6 for Darmstadt. It started off with 2 misses a miss from both teams. Then there were 5 straight makes, which obviously sent this into sudden death. Then they got 2 straight misses again. It was back and forth. It was ridiculous. Like it was as drama as it can possibly get. Both teams thought they had it for the win. But then Holstein were able to score 2 in a row. The last goal, the last one missed by Tim Skar, and it sends Holstein into the next round. I mean, unbelievable. Back-to-back, tight games, going into penalties, late in the penalty shootout, and Holstein are able to hold on. I mean, it's huge for them. I mean, you got to just tip your hat to that club to just be able to keep on pushing forward and keep on, just making big plays. And they now move on to the next round. It hasn't been said who they're going to be facing, because obviously we still have a good half of the games yet to play. But man, just unbelievable the way that started. The other game I want to talk about, huge upset with Essen. It's like West Essen defeating Bayer Leverkusen in extra time. And what a game to forget for Bayer Leverkusen, because they and not in the way of they got dominated by a lower team. They should have won this game by about 6 goals, easy. There were opportunities after opportunities for Bayer Leverkusen. They had 27 shots in this game, 11 on target. They had 70% possession. They were absolutely dominating Essen. But the goalkeeper, what's the name? Davari, absolutely gets the MVP of this game. Man of the match, 100%, because he kept his team in the game countless times. Bayer Leverkusen also didn't help themselves out. The amount of times that they hit the woodwork, I can't count it on my hand. Ridiculous. But then, even with all those missed chances, even with it going to extra time, Bayer Leverkusen were able to score the first goal in the 105th minute, Leon Bailey giving Bayer Leverkusen that 1-0 lead. And you're thinking, okay, that's it. Essen pretty much haven't been able to do much all game, haven't really dominated possession, only had 8 shots. Well, I mean, this is 8 shots for you in the entire game, and 3 on target for the entire game. So they were practically doing little to nothing before they scored 2 straight goals within 9 minutes before the end of this game to move on to the next round. And I mean, the last goal was incredible. Engelmann in the 117th minute to hit the top of the goal, the top of the net as it goes in. Just an absolutely incredible shot. But it's just, you have got to give credit to Essen to not give up, continue to push forward even when they went down. Because any team with the way that the game had been going, Leverkusen with all the momentum, would have, felt down for themselves, been like, man, I mean, we did as good as we could, but I mean, they got a goal. But they didn't do that. They kept on pushing forward. They got their 2 goals, and now they are moving on to the next round, while Bayer Leverkusen and their just dismal stretch continues as they now lose to a lower tier side in Essen 2-1 in the third round of the DFB Pokal Cup. It's just it doesn't get much worse than that for Leverkusen. I mean, I'm feeling for them, because if I was a Leverkusen fan, I would be livid. I mean, they played well, so it's not like they had a terrible game, but it's for them not to take advantage of their opportunities. So many clear chances missed. They're gonna have to, like, for sure they're not sleeping tonight. That's the kind of game that lives with them for a while. But yeah, man, Leverkusen eliminated, and Essen move on. Next, we had a game between Borussia Dortmund and Paderborn, and this was another exciting game. I mean, we got some excitement here in the DFB Pokal. Dortmund got off to a blistering start. I mean, they couldn't do nothing wrong. Emre Can, I mean, they were consistently putting pressure on Paderborn, not allowing them to get any rhythm. They were consistently in their final third, and it eventually resulted in a goal from Emre Can in the 6th minute, and then Jadon Sancho on a breakaway, a couple touches here and there, got by the goalkeeper, scored in the 16th minute to make it 2-0, and this was looking like a blowout. But then Paderborn continued to stay with it. And this wasn't like Borussia Dortmund were dominating the game. Early on, yes, but Paderborn stuck with their game plan, started getting a few looks. I mean, and they got some very solid looks. I mean, honestly, from, I would say, about maybe like late in that first half to pretty much the rest of the game, Paderborn were the better team. Absolutely. I mean, Borussia Dortmund kind of took their foot off the gas pedal. Paderborn were getting more opportunities. We're actually getting through into the half and into the final third, getting shots. They had 18 shots in this game. One more than Dortmund. And they had 6 shots on target. Dortmund were a bit more efficient, had 17 shots, 9 on target. But Paderborn absolutely deserved their first goal in the 79th minute to bring it within 1. And then late in the game, the drama happened. They got inside the box, causing pressure for Dortmund, and one touch that was missed by Dortmund, that the guy pretty much just kicked the Paderborn player on the arm. It wasn't called originally, so no whistle was called. Dortmund played through it. They found Haaland on a breakaway, and it looked like he scored the game winner, making it 3-1. But then VAR went to check it, and upon further review, I thought when I first saw it, I was like, absolutely, that's a penalty. The commentators were thinking otherwise, but I don't know. I think that's a clear penalty. I mean, the guy swung for the ball. The Dortmund defender swung for the ball. What was his name again? I remember it because they were saying it so many times. No, he came off the bench then. Must have been. Or was he? Hold on. I'm going to find it for you. Paslak. Like, it was like he completely missed the ball and just kicked the attacker of Paderborn right in, like, literally in the body. And they called off the goal of Haaland and made it a penalty. Paderborn would go ahead, hit that penalty in the 97th minute. Plus 7 minutes of extra time, hit that penalty because obviously there was a lot of reviewing of that situation. And that would send this game into extra time. And it was like, it was anybody's game, even though, of course, you're still expecting Dortmund to find a way to come away with a victory here. And they would do just that with early on, 95th minute, only 5 minutes into that extra time, Erling Haaland was found, and he would slot it home for Dortmund. It was poor defending by Paderborn, allowing a striker with Haaland's ability, pretty much a free breakaway, just him and the goalkeeper. He's more often than not, I mean, people are going to bet money that Haaland's going to finish that. And he did just that, sending Dortmund into the next round, winning 3-2. But, I mean, you got to give all the credit in the world to Paderborn to continue to fight, and played extremely well. I mean, if you were watching this game, you were thinking Paderborn deserved to go into extra time here. They fought, they clawed their way back to a tie, but obviously the quality of Dortmund and the defensive mishaps of Paderborn, kind of spelled their doom and sent Dortmund into the next round. But this was a very, very exciting game. Next, and lastly, we had Werder Bremen taking on Fürth. Probably saying that name wrong, but this was a pretty back and forth game as well. Even though Werder Bremen were able to move on to the next round with a pretty easy 2-0 win. They got off to a strong start, getting a 12th minute goal. And Fürth just really couldn't get much going in terms of attack. They had good possession, 58%. They were passing it pretty well. They had 81% pass accuracy to Werder Bremen's 74%. So, overall, their organization and the way that they were, kind of playing from the midfield and back was pretty solid. But whenever it came to the attack, they couldn't really find any efficient looks. You got to credit Werder Bremen and their stout defense. They were playing pretty well against them. I mean, Fürth only had 9 shots, 2 on target, so they could barely do anything. But Werder Bremen took advantage of their opportunities, had 16 shots, 5 on target. They scored their second in the 73rd minute, sending Fürth home in the third round, and Werder Bremen move on. I mean, it was a big game for them, and this was something that, they had to get. And they were able to move on. I mean, so it's a big game for Werder Bremen, and so that's going to wrap it up for the DFB Pokal. Now we got, actually, I'm going to leave the Coppa Italia for last because we had a very exciting game between Juventus and Inter Milan that I want to get into. I feel like that's best to save it for last. In Copa del Rey, we only had one game with Sevilla taking on Almeria, and just real quick, because I did not know, and when I found out, I was losing my mind. I don't know how I didn't know. I didn't see any news. I'm always on Bleacher Report. I follow all these soccer news. I did not see that Papu Gomez signed with Sevilla 6 days ago. Like, I'm absolutely shocked, because that is such a huge move for Sevilla that had so much playmaking prowess to that team. I mean, like, they have a solid defense. Their midfield is good. I mean, it's even better now. But their attack was always just like a bit behind those bigger teams in La Liga and even the bigger teams around the world. But now with Papu Gomez, who was pretty much the main man of that Atalanta squad, is just absolutely ridiculous. So now that I got that out of the way, I had to talk about that. Obviously, the eyes were on Papu Gomez, who got this was his debut playing as you would expect in, what was he? He was playing on the left side here, but he was pretty much going wherever, he was needed. He was in the middle of the pitch at times. He was on the left, on the wing. But, I mean, the guy can do it all. And he got a lot of players involved in this game. But eventually it was Lucas Ocampos who scored the winner in the 67th minute with a beautiful header, I must say. I mean, and also, I believe it was assisted by Papu Gomez, if I'm not mistaken. No, it was assisted by Suso off the corner kick. But, man, I mean, what a goal that was. I mean, he was like on the opposite side of the goal from where he shot it from. It was just absolutely incredible shot. And, I mean, Sevilla move on. I mean, because it was actually a pretty tight game. I mean, these two teams were going back and forth, even though Sevilla had much more opportunities. They had 23 shots to Almeria's 9. Almeria were still hanging in there. I mean, they were not allowing Sevilla to just get whatever they wanted. They were certainly, putting a lot of players in front of the ball. But it's just that in the attack, they just never really threatened Sevilla, like, whatsoever. So this was really Sevilla's game to lose, and they were able to move on to the next round. Huge win for them. They're now in the semifinal, where they will be taking on whether it's Villarreal, Barcelona, Real Betis, Athletic Club, who knows, but they have a good chance as any to win this Copa del Rey. And lastly, we're going to be talking about the Coppa Italia showdown between Juventus and Inter Milan. This was the first leg of the semifinal, and what a match this was. Early on, it was pretty much all Inter Milan. They were getting opportunities left and right, and in the 9th minute, Lautaro Martinez got on the score sheet. Great just overall play from the team to find Alexis Sanchez on a run down the field, he was able to hold the ball really well. And then Nicola Barella, just coming like a freaking bullet down the field, was able to take the ball and find Lautaro Martinez cutting inside of De Ligt for a very nice goal. Buffon, probably a few years ago, would have been able to save that, but doesn't have the same reaction time that he did then. And Lautaro Martinez was able to open up the scoring for Inter Milan, and this kind of looked like a game that could be just like what it was in the Serie A match between these two clubs, with Inter Milan, winning. But Juventus were able to hold on and they got a penalty in the 26th minute. In my opinion, it was a clear penalty. Inter Milan players thought Cuadrado was flopping. I don't think so at all. I mean, Ashley Young pretty much held him down. And it was such a poor penalty, too, or such a poor foul, I should say, because the ball was going way over Cuadrado. Like, there was no chance for him to get the ball. But the contact was clear, and a penalty had to be called. And, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo does what he does best. Even at 36 years old, just absolutely beams it into the back of the net, gives Juventus that equalizer, and after that, Inter Milan fell apart. The defense, what was it? What was his name? Bastoni. Terrible decision. Wanted a ball that went to the back. It was kind of like in no man's land. Bastoni wasn't really sure whether he should go for it. He wanted Handanovic to come out to it. Handanovic was a bit late, and Bastoni thought he had to take care of it. But then right after he took that touch, Ronaldo was there to take it away from him. And the goal was open because Handanovic had already come way out from his line. And, man, what a goal that was from Ronaldo to take the lead in the 35th minute. The ball rolled for, like, what seemed forever. And we were still wondering if it was going to go in because it was going up against the post. But it hit the post and went in. And, I mean, huge goal for Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, in the end, that's the last person you want to leave with an open goal in front of him. I mean, more often than not, he's going to be putting that away. And I would say almost 100% of the time he's going to put that away. Even though, like the way he was kind of running, it was a little tough. That's why it wasn't like a clear shot. He had to do it kind of quick. But still, I mean, for him to take advantage of that opportunity and Juventus to hold on for that 2-1 victory, I mean, it was huge. I mean, of course, this is only the first leg, so anything can happen. I don't think they had Lukaku playing in this game. I think he was was he off the bench? No, he wasn't even on the bench, so I don't know if he was injured or what, but, I mean, they had most of their players. They had Skriniar, De Vrij, and this is Inter I'm talking about, Barella, Brozovic. They had Alexis Sanchez in place of Lukaku, and, of course, that possibly made the difference, even though Alexis Sanchez played a good game, but, he's no Lukaku. Lukaku's one of the better strikers in the world, and him with Lautaro Martinez, they've been a great partnership, and I'm sure he would have made a big difference. I'm close to guaranteeing it. He's going to play in that second leg, and this is going to be a very exciting way to see who moves on to the next round. But the first game did not disappoint. Juventus moving on. I absolutely love that Weston McKennie is getting regular time. I mean, he's one of their best midfielders. And he's taking advantage of the fact that the midfield doesn't look as good as it has in recent years. But I mean, I have to put that out there that I absolutely love seeing Weston McKennie. And I also need to mention Demiral keeping Alexis Sanchez out from an equalizer late in the game. Buffon, I mean, the ball was a poor a pass in the midfield or poor control. Inter got the ball like pretty much in the final third of Juventus, and Alexis Sanchez had a clear shot at goal until Demiral got in the way and had a goal line save for the competition. Absolutely incredible. Saved the game for Juventus, and they move on. But they take a 2-1 lead in that first leg. So huge for them. And that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 leagues, discussing the tables as we near, close to this, like almost final parts of the season right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over the different cup matches that were going on this past weekend, and now we're going to be talking about the top 5 leagues. Honestly, primarily, we're going to be talking about the Premier League here because all the other leagues are currently in their cup matches like we just finished talking about. So I'll go over, the 4 matches that happened so far this week, and obviously going over the table, and then I'll just discuss quickly the tables in the other 4 leagues. But let's just get started with the Premier League with Sheffield United playing like one of the hotter teams in the entire Premier League. Absolutely incredible what they've been able to do, turning around their season. I mean, they're still bottom of the table, but at least they're making a challenge. Like, over the last 5 games, they have 3 wins. They didn't have 3... just think about that real quick. They have 3 wins in their last 5 games. That's all 3 wins that they've had all season. It's incredible what they've been able to do. I have noticed of late, even in some of their recent losses, that they're playing a lot better. And you just love to see that, especially the way they started off the year, not winning in like their first 19 or 17 matches. It was just an absolutely incredible game from them to defeat West Brom, and what a big game, as West Brom's ahead of them in the table. They haven't been playing well. This is now their 3rd loss in 4 games, and West Brom actually started off with a goal early on. They got a 41st minute goal to go into halftime up 1-0, and it was looking bleak for Sheffield United because West Brom were putting a lot of pressure. Even though Sheffield were getting opportunities, they had 14 shots in this game in total. Most of those came late because they were putting a lot of pressure on West Brom. We're not allowing them to get the space that they were getting early on in the game, and it helped them to get. They got 69% possession, Sheffield United. So they were dominating possession. They were passing it around very well, and they were getting opportunities at goal. And it felt like eventually they were going to get a goal. That goal eventually came in the 56th minute where they equalized from a Jadon Bogle goal. And then, of course, who else but Sheffield United man, Billy Sharp, to give them the winner in the 73rd minute off. I mean, just a lot of great hustle. You love to see that in a team that they're fighting tooth and nail to try to stay in the Premier League. Obviously, the way that the season started, they wish they could take it back, but that hardship, going through that tough part of the season has, strengthened them to come out with these, very strong performances, and it results in a 2-1 win against West Brom. I mean, obviously, if there's a game they're going to, have to take advantage of, it's against the teams that they're in the relegation battles against. And this is a great step into trying to get out of that relegation zone. They still have a long way to go. Because, I mean, Brighton's coming off some very solid wins in their last 3 games. Fulham aren't playing that well. Obviously, like I said, West Brom not playing well. But, I mean, Newcastle haven't been playing well, but they're still 10 points behind Brighton to get out of the relegation zone. So, obviously, they still have a lot of work to do. However, their past few games have been very, very encouraging. There's no reason to think that Sheffield United have no chance. And you look at let's look at their next couple games to see who they be taking on. They do take on Chelsea in their next game, West Ham. They play Fulham, Liverpool, Southampton, Leicester City. Aston Villa, oh boy. I'm looking at these games. That is not going to be easy, actually. Oh boy. Yeah, they take on a lot of the tough teams. I mean, Chelsea, because you got to look at it like, a tough team for Sheffield United would be any team on the top half of the table, in my opinion. And you got Chelsea, West Ham, Fulham, Liverpool, Southampton, Leicester City, Aston Villa, Leeds United. I mean, that's okay, but still going to be tough. Arsenal, Wolves. Then they got Brighton. They got Tottenham after that. Crystal Palace is decent. And then Everton, Newcastle, and Burnley. So, they only got, 4 games here that I would say, they could be considered, not favorites, but at least, to have a good competitive game there. The other ones, they're going to be underdogs. So they have an uphill battle to climb in order to get out of this relegation zone. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to turn their season around. That would be a heck of a story from the relegation battle. But now let's talk about the Wolves versus Arsenal game. And my God, Arsenal's ugly head turns itself once again. It just kind of feels like it's the same story all the time. I mean, Arsenal have been great of late. I mean, I have to mention that. I mean, they haven't lost a game in I think it's 5 or 6 weeks. Oh no, not 5 or 6 weeks. It's 5 or 6 games, I should say, because all these games are so close together. It's they play 6 games in 2 weeks. Incredible, but they've been playing much better of late, which has helped them get to about mid-table after starting having one of the worst starts in their history. But this game feels a lot like one of those early games in the season where Arsenal looked great early on. I mean, putting constant pressure on the Wolves. Their speed on the edges is incredible and was nearly unstoppable or nearly impossible for the Wolves to stop. And it almost got them a few goals. Early on in this game, Bukayo Saka, who thankfully came back to this game from injury, looked like an absolute man possessed. It hit the woodwork early on in the game after getting a really nice run. I forgot who passed it to him, but it was a great run. He should have scored, but still, it was encouraging signs. He hit the post again, 4 minutes later, and then he actually scored the goal, but then it was disallowed because someone was, I think it was Lacazette, was offside before he passed it to him. So Arsenal were putting so much pressure on the Wolves and were giving them a lot of fits until Nicolas Pepe came through with one of the nicest solo goals I've seen this season, getting it by Semedo and then absolutely nutmegging. What was his name again? Not Neto, Neves. Absolutely nutmegging Neves, and then hitting it with his weak foot to the other side of the goal. Rui Patricio had no chance to save it, and it was a great goal. Absolutely great goal. It looks like Nicolas Pepe is getting his flow back. It's looking like that player that they paid $70 million for. So it's huge. But then, literally right before halftime, you're thinking Arsenal's going into the half up 1-0. They're looking great. The momentum is continuously going on their side. And then David Luiz gets caught in a very tough situation. Holding was in a bad spot too. The defense was just very bad in this situation. Who was it? Willian Jose gets caught right in between them. And then it was like a clip of the leg. It was accidental contact, but he did impede him from scoring the equalizer late in that half. David Luiz gets hit with a red card, and Ruben Neves puts in the penalty. It was just a very, very tough way for that half to end for Arsenal, and it kind of just ruined any momentum they had. Absolutely. You lose a man and they equalize off the penalty. It absolutely ruined it for them. And of course, it just goes to show because 4 minutes late into the second half, João Moutinho tosses one of the most ridiculous goals I have seen this year from way outside. He was probably 35 yards out. And he hadn't scored since November of 2019. So this is unheard of from him. Not unheard of, but this is rare occasion that he just puts up one of the nicest goals I have seen from way out, hits the post as it goes in, and gives the Wolves a 2-1 lead. And just to make matters worse, in the 72nd minute, Bernd Leno, for some reason, comes off his line trying to get a ball that was like a through ball that, was really nicely hit, but I mean, he mistimed it, overran the ball, and then ended up hitting it with his arm outside the box and was given a red card himself. Absolutely terrible. Just one of the worst things that can happen to Arsenal, and they play the last 20 minutes of the game down to 9 men. I mean, it pretty much spelled the game for them. I mean, Arsenal pretty much couldn't do anything after that. Wolves were getting whatever they wanted. They couldn't get an extra goal, but they were dominating possession late in that game, and I mean, it's just a poor game from Arsenal. I mean, to lose David Luiz right before half, and then Bernd Leno late in that game, it's just so deflating for fans, and so deflating for the team itself after playing so well over the past few games, to just have another one of these dud games, and it completely overshadows what, that great goal from Nicolas Pepe to open up the scoring in this game. So it's just really hard to see for Arsenal. I mean, not that I'm an Arsenal fan, but it's like for them to play as well as they have, and then have another one of these dud games, it just feels so Arsenal, honestly. And then, oh, man, another game I want to talk about: Manchester United versus Southampton. My goodness, talk about bad luck. I mean, Man United defeated Southampton 9-0. 9-0. This is the second time in 2 years that Southampton have lost 9-0, or have been scored on nine times in a game. It happened to them last year against Leicester City, and now to Manchester United. I mean, it did not help where Alex Jankovic, in the second minute on his Premier League debut, does one of the most ridiculous tackle attempts. I mean, studs out, like hits McTominay right on the knee, unnecessary. I mean, you're literally putting your opponent in danger of a serious injury. Absolutely deserved that red card. When I was first looking at the stats here, I was like, man, what did this kid do in the second minute to deserve a red card? And 100%, 10 out of 10, that's a red card. And I mean, they were already down to 10 men early on in that game, and the floodgates started opening. Aaron Wan-Bissaka scores his second goal of his career in the 18th minute. Marcus Rashford adds a second in the 25th. And then it gets even worse. Jean Bednarak in the 34th minute gets an own goal. I mean, you got to feel bad for him because, I mean, the pressure was just constant. They didn't have a time to breathe. Edison Cavani puts another goal 5 minutes later in the 39th. And then going into the second half, there was a little bit more life in Southampton's game. Like, they weren't getting scored on consistently, I mean, until the 69th minute when Anthony Martial scored a fifth goal for them. But then, then it just kept on getting worse. 71st minute, Scott McTominay scored a really nice goal from way outside the box. And then late in the game, Bruno Fernandes put a penalty. They were just ruthless. Anthony Martial in the 90th. Daniel James in extra time to make it 9-0. Just so ruthless from Manchester United. 7 different Manchester United players scored in this game. 7 different players. That is incredible. I'm so impressed with that, but also just the ruthlessness of their game. And also, on top of that, John Badnarik picked up, it was a poor red card. I have no idea what the refs were thinking there, because he was like avoiding Martial. It was for the penalty that Bruno Fernandes scored. He was trying to avoid Anthony Martial, and Martial was looking for the foul. They still called the penalty, which is fine, but a red card in that situation, that is soft. That was a soft penalty, or a soft red card, sent Southampton down to 9 men, which then allowed, Man United to tack on 3 more goals at the end of that game. Just one of the games that Southampton's going to want to forget. Just short-term memory loss. Just forget about it. Like Ted Lasso says, be a goldfish after this game. Be a goldfish. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, watch Ted Lasso. It's hilarious. But let's see. But yeah, that game was that was atrocious. I mean, if I'm a Southampton fan, I'm turning that off at halftime. Probably even before that, honestly. Next, we had Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace were able to come away with a victory. We had 3 goals in the first half. One from Shelvey, Newcastle's Shelvey in the second minute. Started this game off, real quick, making it 1-0 for Newcastle. But then Crystal Palace, in 4 minutes, were able to get the winner. Jaido Weidewald, man, that is a tough name to say, scores in the 21st minute to equalize. And then Gary Cahill, 4 minutes later, scores the winner for Crystal Palace, and they get the win here. Huge win for them. This is the Newcastle's 4th loss in their last 5 games, so tough. And Crystal Palace is now their 2nd win in a row. Big for them as they're now tied with Southampton and Leeds United with 29 points. They do have a few more games played, so that's why they're 13th, while Southampton and Leeds United are 12th and 11th, respectfully. But still, big game for them and good result. So that was all the games that have been played so far. We still got a few exciting ones. We have Man City, Burnley, Everton, Leeds United. I'm excited to see that one, especially, Tottenham versus Chelsea. Who isn't excited to see that one? And, of course, Aston Villa versus West Ham. That is going to be a big, big game to see which team there can come out on top. West Ham, which have been the big surprise this season, and Aston Villa, can they kind of continue their strong season as well? It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But let's move on to Serie A, where there have no games have been played yet for match day 21. So let's just quickly look at the table, where AC Milan and Inter Milan are still at the top with 46 and 44 points respectively. 4 more points, 6 and 4 more points than Roma, who have 40. Juventus just behind them with 39. They've been playing very well over the last 5 games, 4 wins and a loss. Lazio just continue to play well, have 5 straight wins, have 37 points, tied with Napoli. Napoli, they also 3 wins in their last 4 games, so all those teams playing extremely well. Atalanta, who, now that I know, don't have Papu Gomez anymore, kind of aren't going to have that same flair. It's going to be hard for them to kind of win more games consistently, but they're coming off a loss. They had 2 draws before that, even though they got 2 wins mixed in there in their last 5 games. But still, it's just, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Serie A. So competitive. Usually you see Juventus on the top of this table and kind of running away with the win. But this year, it's the Milan squads, man, with 46 and 44 points. I mean, it's not over. I mean, even though Milan are 6 points ahead of Roma, who are in third, 7 ahead of Juventus, you cannot count out any of those teams. As Milan, they have their 2 losses in their last 5 games. The only 2 losses they have all season, so they've kind of been dropping points. So anything can happen there. And then now let's go to the Bundesliga, where also, we didn't have any games being played yet. So, let's see. Let's look at those standings, which, as I said last time, Bayern just running away with it. They now have a 7-point lead over second place RB Leipzig, 10-point lead over third place Wolfsburg. And it's really all has to do with the terrible play of RB Leipzig and then obviously Bayer Leverkusen, who were pretty close to Bayern Munich a few weeks ago. Over these past few weeks, it's just been very inconsistent football. But then you look at third and fourth place, you got Wolfsburg, who are coming off 3 straight wins, had 2 draws before that, and then Eintracht Frankfurt in fourth place with 4 wins and a draw in their last 5 games, playing incredible football and absolutely outshining those top teams that you would usually expect in those spots, like Bayer Leverkusen, Borussia Dortmund, Borussia Mönchengladbach. Just incredible games from them. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Mönchengladbach of late. 3 wins and 2 draws in their last 5 games, but Leverkusen, 3 losses and a win in their last 4. Dortmund, 2 losses and a win in the last 3. Just dropping points left and right, not playing consistently whatsoever, which has allowed Bayern Munich to pretty much run away with this title. I mean, I guess in a way, RB Leipzig have a chance. I mean, 7 points out with I guess you got 14 games left, somewhere around there. it just doesn't seem possible for Bayern Munich to drop that many points. And RB Leipzig need to play pretty much perfect for them to have any chance at a title. And they just haven't been that. So I'm pretty much already crowning Bayern Munich the champs here unless something drastically bad happens. Let's see. For La Liga now, same thing. No games being played. And as always, we have Atletico Madrid just absolutely running away with this league with a game in hand. They have 10 more points than both Barcelona and Real Madrid. 11 more points than Sevilla. Just absolutely incredible what Atletico Madrid have been able to do this season. They have the best defense. They have one of the best offenses. It's just absolutely incredible. It's the reason I put them as my second best team in the world so far this season. In my last episode, it's been an incredible sight to see from Atletico Madrid this year. And really, I'm not going to say I called it because I was not expecting them to run away with La Liga, but I certainly had them as one of the title contenders because I loved the additions of like Luis Suarez. I felt like João Felix in this second season in La Liga was going to be much better, which he is. And just the overall, just complexion of that team is so good, and I love it. So Atletico Madrid absolutely running away with this season. And then I got to talk about Sevilla, man, because now with Papu Gomez in the squad, they could be looking to turn things around and probably fight for one of those, for the second and third place, because they're only 1 point behind Real Madrid and Barcelona with the same amount of games played. They've got 4 wins in their last 5 games. Obviously, Barcelona playing really well in La Liga, 5 wins in a row. But Real Madrid dropping points. Sevilla have a big-time chance. I mean, I feel like there's no doubt in my mind they're going to get a Champions League spot here. No doubt. Because I don't feel like Villarreal, Real Sociedad, Real Betis, Granada are going to have any sort of, big surge towards the end of the season to really challenge Sevilla for that 4th spot. But, I mean, just look out for Sevilla to really blow things away and really start changing the landscape of La Liga as we know it. It's going to be really fun to watch. And then lastly, let's talk about Ligue 1, which, like I said, obviously also no games being played yet. But, PSG in 3rd place, 22 games into the season. Who would have thought of that? And no, Mbappe is not on Monaco anymore. He is not. They are not. This isn't one of those seasons. You got Lille at the top of the table with 48 points, 4 straight wins. You got Lyon in 2nd place with 46 points. They got 2 wins in a row, although they did have a loss and a draw before that. PSG dropping points. I mean, they're coming off a loss to, 18th place 18th place Lorient. Just absolutely terrible performance from them. I mean, to give up a goal late in that game. I mean, when the title race is this close, they don't have any chance to breathe. And in a way, I kind of like it because I want them to have this competition in Ligue 1, and it certainly has been more competitive because Lille have been playing great this season. 14 wins, 6 draws, 2 losses. Lyon have been staying competitive, 13 wins, 7 draws, 2 losses. But it's PSG that have 14 wins. They have 3 draws, but they have 5 losses this season. So they just have not been the same type of team that we've come to expect in Ligue 1, and it's costing them points and it's costing them a place in Ligue 1. So maybe they can turn it around. I mean, I'm expecting them to, but yeah, man. I mean, we got about 14 games left in this season, and things are tight. It's going to be exciting. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 current England players in the world right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over the top 5 leagues, just went over some of the games that have occurred over the weekend, and of course discussed the tables as well. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 current England players in the world. This is probably one of the toughest lists I've had to go and make because, there's just so much talent in this England international squad. There's some that don't even play for the England national team because of how stacked it is at that position. One name in particular, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I always kind of figured I would put Aaron Wan-Bissaka in my top 10 England players list, but when I went and actually did my research and actually, looked over every single player on this list, I just couldn't put him in there. He's on the outside looking in. A couple other players. This is kind of like a, informal, honorable mentions, but you got like Declan Rice, Kyle Walker, Ben Chilwell, I guess Jordan. I wouldn't really put any of the goalkeepers in there because Jordan Pickford, Dean Henderson, Nick Pope all haven't really proven themselves as one of the top goalkeepers in the world. So I really couldn't put them on this list. But you got youngsters like Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham that have really played well. Even Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yes, that's probably one of the biggest names that's not going to be on this list. Even Tammy Abraham, all incredible players, but just weren't good enough to make it on this list. We're almost made it to number 10 for a couple of these guys, specifically Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I almost had them at number 10, but there's just one guy that's been absolutely killing it this season that I just had to put in there, and that's John Stones at number 10. When he first came to Manchester City, obviously the hype was super real, with him coming from Everton and being one of the best one of the best young center backs or one of the best young defenders in the world. But he obviously didn't perform to that standard. But this season has been kind of a bit of a revival for him as he's just really brought it all together and is playing, such great football at the moment. Him with Ruben Diaz has been probably the best pairing center backs in the Premier League this season. And honestly, two of the best pairings in the world at the moment. With what John Stones can do on defense, he's such a strong player. He has a high defensive IQ. He can pass the ball pretty well. He's got solid vision for a defender. That's something that I always like to see in defenders, them being able to, handle the ball, have at least decent technical ability to not lose it and make, bad mistakes on when they have the ball at their feet. And club stats wise, he hasn't really put much on the score sheet. 263 matches played. He's got 9 goals and 2 assists. He did get his first 2 goals for Manchester City this season. A brace against, I believe it was Crystal Palace. He's certainly, is one of the biggest risers in terms of England internationals. And he certainly, in my opinion, deserves to be number 10 on this list. At number 9, we have another English center back, the 27-year-old Harry Maguire from Manchester United. He gets a lot of flack, or he's the scapegoat often when Manchester United don't do well. But he is a very sound player, at least defensively. He is very strong. He's one of the strongest defenders in the world. I think even when I consider strong strikers like Lukaku, I don't feel like he would have a big advantage against Harry Maguire. I feel like that's one of the center backs that can actually match his strength. And he uses it to his advantage. He's a very sound defender. He has great positioning. His passing could be better. I don't think it's at the same level as a guy like John Stones, but it's good enough where I still think he's better than John Stones. But he hasn't been, a world class this season, which is why he falls a little bit on this list and drops behind a couple guys that when I first started this season, I would have thought he would be ahead of. But Harry Maguire is still a very, very good defender. In my opinion, the best defender that England has to offer at the moment. You look at his club stats, and he's certainly better at aerial duels and scoring goals off set pieces. He's got 23 goals and 13 assists in 384 matches played. For England, he's got 28 caps, 2 goals, and 2 assists. So, he certainly has that ability to also impact on the offensive end. Off corner kicks, he's very dangerous and has already scored this season a few, big-time goals for Manchester United. And there's a reason he wears the captain band. He's respected and, certainly has, what is it, the the experience to lead a team. Number 8, we have probably the in my opinion, the biggest surprise on this list, at least entering the season. 20-year-old midfielder slash forward, I guess, because he's so versatile. Phil Foden of Manchester City. I mean, what a season this kid is having. At 20 years old, he's already showing incredible poise in front of goal and incredible finishing ability. Something that he's kind of been building over the years, but this season he's kind of taken it to a whole other level. His technical skills are incredible. He's able to get by multiple defenders with ease and is just a very, very strong player. I mean, it's kind of hard to really put into words like what he's been able to do this year. He's one of the key, like over the past few years. I guess you can say the past 2 seasons that he's been in Manchester City, he's been primarily an off-the-bench piece, someone that's used his depth, doesn't have a lot of experience, so he's not really used in those big-time moments. But this season, he's been an integral part of Manchester City's dominant season in the Premier League. They're hoping obviously he can perform in the big stage as well and help them to Champions League glory as well. And I don't see any reason why he won't be able to do that. I mean, he's shown the ability. I mean, he's got amazing skills. He can go solo runs and finish them with goals. He's done it already. And on top of that, his vision is on point. He's got great passing skills, so he's a very complete player. And maybe he won't give you as much as you would hope for on the defensive end, but he's no slouch on that end as well. He'll certainly, contribute on that end and give attackers fits. So Phil Foden certainly deserves to be number 8 on this list. Has been an amazing player, and I mean, it's only going to be going up from here. Just 20 years old, he's got so much more time to get better. Number 7, I have Jack Grealish. Just continues to show that he is one of the best attacking midfielders in the Premier League and, in my opinion, in the world. At 25 years old, he's obviously still got room to grow. But in 237 matches played, he's got 37 goals and 41 assists. An extremely versatile attacking player. So excellent technically, can pretty much lead a team offensively as he's done for Aston Villa this season. And is a big, big reason why they are one of the bigger surprises this season. Right now, it's obviously West Ham. They've been, to be in top 5. But Aston Villa have had a very, very strong season. And Jack Grealish is the biggest reason for it. You can understand why, big-time clubs like Manchester United and I believe, I think it was Chelsea, were linked to him. It's because he's a big-time player that can win you games with his incredible dribbling skills, his finishing, his passing. He's got it all on the offensive end. In the attack and the defense, he doesn't have the work rate that I would, want in one of my star players, but he still gives you everything he needs, everything you need on the attack. You really can't fault anything about his game. So that's why he comes in at number 7, big-time player, Jack Grealish. At number 6, I got the 30-year-old midfielder of Liverpool, Jordan Henderson. It's tough to really quantify what Jordan Henderson really means to Liverpool. I mean, just his ability to control the tempo of the game with his vision, his work rate, his defense. It's so valuable. It's incredible that he was scapegoated for so many years. Obviously, last year he was finally recognized for his incredible skills. I mean, last year was kind of a breakout year for him and Liverpool. Obviously, they won their title for the first time, the Premier League title for the first time in like 30 years. But Jordan Henderson has been such an important piece to Liverpool over the years. It's a reason that Jurgen Klopp stuck with him and didn't loan him out when he was always kind of considered the scapegoat of Liverpool. But man, he is so important to Liverpool's success, and in my opinion, is the most important player for England and their success. For his ability to just kind of stay back, because he can play as a deep-lying playmaker. He can be a holding midfielder. I mean, and I wouldn't really prefer him up top, but if he needed to, he can also play a little bit of attacking midfield because of his incredible vision. He does have some ability to score goals, but that's not really his forte. He does have 34 goals in 441 matches played, 55 assists though, and just overall is just such an excellent player, so sound, so complete, and so versatile. Jordan Henderson at number 6. At number 5, Maybe I put him a little bit high here because he hasn't had as strong of a season. But he's normally a top 3, top 4 player. I couldn't put him much lower than this. Jadon Sancho, the 20-year-old forward / attacking midfielder from Borussia Dortmund, is here at number 5. I mean, he's got all the skills you want from an attacking player. The pace, the technical skills, the finishing ability, the passing, the vision. He's got it all, and he's already shown it at such a in such a complete way at such an early age. At 20 years old, I mean, he's already done it at such a high level in the Bundesliga. I mean, last year he had nearly 18 goals, 20 assists, something like that. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. This year, not having that same sort of effect. So he's, I don't know, it's been kind of a rough year for Jadon Sancho and Borussia Dortmund as a whole. But still, you cannot deny the skill and the talent of Jadon Sancho. He's still going to be worth upwards of 100 million euros if he were to go. Obviously, with the pandemic and the financials, it's tough to pay that much money. That's why Manchester United never made that deal. But maybe he drops a bit with this season. But to still be worth upwards of 80 million euros, you got a world class talent here in the making. At least at 20 years old, he's still got so much more room to improve and grow. And I can easily see Jadon Sancho being one of the best England players for upwards of a decade. Easy. And that's why he comes in at number 5. At number 4, I have Raheem Sterling, the 26-year-old winger from Manchester City. Honestly, for a little bit of this year, I felt like I didn't feel Raheem Sterling's presence at all for Manchester City, especially the way that his season ended last year, missing one of the easiest goals of his career in the Champions League, and just kind of like crashing from what we were expecting to be superstar status in a big way. But Raheem Sterling has kind of gotten back into form. You look at his stats: 388 matches played. He's got 131 goals and 79 assists. Absolutely incredible. He's versatile. He's got incredible pace, technical skills, finishing, the passing, vision. I mean, he's selfless. It's just that he's got it all for an attacker and is a perfect winger in today's game. You look at his England stats: 55 caps. He's got 9 goals and 16 assists. So plays more. It kind of has a bit more of a playmaking role for Manchester, for England, since obviously, you got Harry Kane, you got some big time, you got a big time striker on that team. So, he can kind of play more of a playmaking role, but he's got that ability. And that kind of what makes Raheem Sterling so good is it's his versatility to kind of play however a team needs him to. If they need him to play as an attacker, be one of those aggressive, guys that kind of make big time runs, open things up for his team, he can do that. If they need him to kind of play make, kind of bring in crosses from the wing, he can do that as well. That's why I think Raheem Sterling, even with him kind of having an up and down season this year, still deserves to be the 4th best England player on this list. At number 3, I have a big-time riser. I didn't think he'd be number 3 on this list coming into this year, but he certainly deserves it because he has been absolutely incredible. Marcus Rashford just continues to show those early signs were no fluke. I remember when he first came on to Manchester United as I believe it was like an 18 or 19-year-old, and he just absolutely blew up on the scene. With like a goal in his debut, a brace the day after. So he had like 5 goals in his first 4 games. Just absolutely incredible for Marcus Rashford. And he just continued to grow on those skill sets or build on those skill sets, I should say. And has continued to just prove that he's one of the best forwards in the Premier League. This season, he's not having, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like he's having as potent of a year because, of course, they have Bruno Fernandes there for a full season. They're bringing guys like Edison Cavani to kind of take on that scoring role. But still, Marcus Rashford, in my opinion, is still their best attacking player. It's obviously Bruno Fernandes is the best player on the team, obviously, but he plays more in the midfield, kind of, play makes, and just kind of does a little bit of everything. Marcus Rashford is that guy that they look at to get all those big-time goals. Some of his goals from dead ball situations, free kicks, are just incredible. It's kind of like Cristiano Ronaldo-esque from his years at Manchester United. Not saying he's that type of player. I mean, that was something else. But Marcus Rashford has certainly improved and continues to get better and better as the years go on. And at 23 years old, he's still got so much more room to grow. So number 3, Marcus Rashford certainly deserves it. At number 2, maybe I'm a little bit biased here because of what he's done over the past few years. But Trent Alexander-Arnold, in my opinion, is still the second best player for England. At 22 years old, right back for Liverpool, he's, in my opinion, the best playmaker on this list. I mean, his ability to those crosses are just absolutely pinpoint from that right back position. He moves up on the right wing and is an absolute like dynamite passer. He's Kevin De Bruyne-esque, but obviously he doesn't have as much control of the game because he comes from that right back position. I would like to see a little bit more defensively from Trent Alexander-Arnold, but he still has good work rate. He certainly tries on the defensive end, just doesn't have that defensive IQ as some of the other right backs that or full backs that I know in the world, like Pereira, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But of course, I'm kind of comparing that to those are some of the best right backs or defensive right backs in the entire world. Trent Alexander-Arnold is probably one of the best fullbacks, if not the best fullback in the world right now. He's kind of having a down year, an inconsistent season, but he's still so vital to what Liverpool do and is going to be vital to what England do for years to come. And that's why he comes in at number 2. And you look at some of his stats, 154 matches played. He's already got 36 assists. There's a reason he's broken back. He broke his own record for assists in the Premier League by a defender. He had 13 the first year, which broke the record initially, and then he had 14 the year after. This year, like I said, not doing that, having that same kind of impact, but is still so vital. Number 1. As you guys probably expected, we got Harry Kane, the 27-year-old striker from Tottenham Hotspurs. I mean, honestly, I probably still would have had him at number 1 had it not been for this season, before this season even started. But with what we're seeing from him this season, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind or anybody's mind that Harry Kane is the best England player in the world right now. I mean, let me actually I don't know why I don't even have these stats pulled up, but I'm going to go to Harry Kane's stats at the moment. For this season, he's got 12 goals and a career-high 11 assists. I mean, the goals, obviously, they're not at that same level that he's used to, but it's because he's been such a great playmaker this year. He's playing off his teammates so well, especially with his co-star Song, who's had, a really good season as well, but it's still nowhere near what Harry Kane has been able to do. Would you want to see a few more goals from him? Absolutely. He's a striker. You want to see that. But still, you cannot deny that this guy has been by far the best striker in the Premier League, and in my opinion, the second best striker in the entire world when you consider, obviously, Lewandowski. He's obviously not better than him. But, man, has he taken it up a notch with his playmaking? It's incredible. I mean, he nearly has half of his career assists this season. He's got 40 career assists. He's got 13 in all competitions this season. That just shows you that he's still kind of developing his game, still finding, different ways to impact the game. It sucks that Tottenham hasn't had, a big-time season. They started off well, but have obviously, taken a big-time dive since that big time, that strong start. But, man, it just no doubt in my mind, Harry Kane is one of the best players in the world and the best England player, right now. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment, or for this show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Obviously, always come back and comment on some, comment on the show. I always love seeing your comments. But yeah, as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.GSMC.com. GSMCpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.